The first person they laid off was me, the guy who'd been there for 10 years. The head of HR didn't just want to screw me out of my severance package. She wanted to deny me the 10-year loyalty bonus and the stock options that came with it. Her exact words were to get the hell out of the building, immediately. She signed my exit paperwork without even glancing at it. Fine by me. From that moment on, if they needed my help, the clock would be running. It didn't take long for the company's entire system to crash. When they ran out of ideas, they blew up my phone, begging me to come back and help for old time's sake. But I was lying on a beach in the Maldives. Not my problem, I said. If you can't fix it, let the whole thing burn. Chapter 1 today was my 10th anniversary with the company. Company policy was clear. 10 years of service gets you a block of company stock and a one-time loyalty bonus. A bonus of $50,000. I grabbed a coffee from the cafe downstairs and had just sat down at my desk to eat my bagel when I got the call from HR. Leo, do you have a minute? Strange. In 10 years, HR had never called me directly. What was this about? Sure, what's up? I answered, a knot forming in my stomach. Could you come up to the conference room on the 10th floor? Room 2. We need to have a chat. A wave of dread washed over me. In corporate America, a surprise meeting with HR in a private room means one thing. You're fired. Rumors about cost-cutting initiatives had been floating around for months, even though our revenue was still climbing. Still, I hadn't heard of anyone actually getting the axe. Were they starting with me? My heart sank. This was a major tech firm, a real industry player. I was poached from my last job by the founder himself, back when we were just a scrappy startup. I'd helped build this place from the ground up, turning it into the unicorn it was today. 10 years. To the day. This morning, I'd been daydreaming about the stock options and that $50,000 bonus. But the company was changing. The founder, having made his fortune, announced his retirement before the year began. He was off to sail around the world, leaving a so-called professional CEO to run the show in his place. The new guy's first move was to clean house, replacing every department head with his old cronies. He even replaced the security guards at the front desk. Then came the corporate buzzwords. He announced a company-wide restructuring to promote synergy and efficiency in response to rapid market changes. I ran the terminal operations department. Basically, I kept the servers and the entire back-end infrastructure from catching fire. I was a tech guy, not a manager, but my old boss saw the writing on the wall. Before he quit, he clapped me on the shoulder and said, "Watch your back with this new guy." After he left, I was put in charge of the whole ops department. As the company grew, my team was buried in work, pulling all-nighters just to keep things running. I sent request after request to HR to hire more people. Every single one was denied by the new CEO. The reason? Cost-cutting. The late nights got so bad that I started keeping a cot in my office. Friends would ask me why I didn't just quit. But the economy was in a downturn. I'm 35, and in the tech world, that's practically ancient. The job market was brutal, and I knew finding another position at my level would be nearly impossible. Besides, the pay was good, $25,000 a month as a level 5 engineer with a healthy annual bonus. I figured I could tough it out a little longer, wait for a better opportunity. Just as I'd resigned myself to the grind, the new CEO started pulling his usual crap. He decided that since my department didn't have a formal manager and wasn't producing flashy data reports, he didn't understand its purpose. So he parachuted in one of his guys to lead it. The new supervisor's name was Kevin Magnum. He'd worked under the new CEO at his last company and knew absolutely nothing about operations engineering. But man, could that guy talk. He had a silver tongue. In meetings, he'd have the CEO laughing with his slick PowerPoint presentations filled with charts and data so meaningless that even I couldn't make sense of them. Internally, he decided we ops guys needed to focus less on the technical weeds and more on communicating our value. That meant daily reports, weekly reports, and monthly reports. We had a work deployment meeting every morning and a summary meeting every Friday after hours. Since he was technically illiterate, he didn't understand a word of my updates. He just assumed I was using jargon to make him look stupid and started targeting me. Which brings me back to the HR meeting. As I was walking to the conference room, my phone buzzed with a message from HR. "Leo, we're all waiting for you. Please hurry." I took a deep breath, pulled out my burner phone, and hit the record button before slipping it into my pocket. When I opened the door, Sharon Reed from HR My new boss, Kevin, and a lawyer from the corporate legal team were sitting in a row, waiting for me like a firing squad. Chapter 2. Please turn off your phone and place it in this signal-blocking box, Sharon said, pointing to a black container by the door. Right? Nothing shady about this at all. I powered down my main phone and placed it in the box. Sharon's tense expression softened slightly. Leo, you know Kevin, and this is our legal counsel. The nature of this conversation is confidential, which is why we require your phone to be off. I just nodded. She opened a folder and slid a single piece of paper across the table. As you know, the company is undergoing a restructuring to improve efficiency. We've had to make some difficult decisions regarding personnel, and your position has been eliminated. I've been here for 10 years, I said, my voice steady. In those 10 years, my accumulated overtime alone is probably close to 5 years of work. You're laying me off? On what grounds? Kevin suddenly shoved a spreadsheet in my face. Here's your performance review for the last quarter. You failed to meet expectations. That's right, Sharon chimed in. As part of our efficiency initiative, any employee who underperforms for 3 consecutive months is subject to termination. I almost laughed. What a load of crap. First of all, you never announced any official performance review process, and you certainly never discussed it with me. Second, my job is to ensure the company's back-end servers are running smoothly. In the last 3 months, your so-called review period, did we have a single critical failure? Any downtime? No. Then my work was satisfactory. I don't accept your underperforming narrative. As a back-end guy, my work was invisible. As long as the system ran perfectly, no one noticed or cared. But the second something went wrong, I was the first one to get the blame. Sharon was speechless, unsure how to respond. Kevin, seeing her flounder, jumped in. Look, ops is simple work. We use top-of-the-line equipment. It could probably run itself. Your salary grade is L5, which is 6 times what we pay an entry-level L1 engineer. If you want to stay, we can offer you a position at L1. You can start over from the bottom. What a joke. I'd spent a decade working my way up to L5, and now he wanted me to start over as a junior associate. Before you got here, there were 4 people on my team. But you don't understand the tech. You reassign one of my best guys to another department, and now there are only 2 of us left to do the work of 4. We're working until midnight at the earliest, often 2 or 3 in the morning. And you have the nerve to tell me I should be demoted to L1. That just proves you're inefficient, Kevin shot back. Your old manager didn't know how to lead, and he left you with bad habits. This is a restructuring. We're cutting out the deadwood. Change is painful, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't change. As a veteran employee, you should be thinking about what's best for the company. I can hire 2 college grads to do what you do. So you have 2 choices. Take the demotion or you're out. If I'm out, what's my severance package? I asked. And today is my 10-year anniversary. Per my contract, I'm entitled to my stock options and a $50,000 loyalty bonus. How are you calculating that? Sharon let out a cold laugh and glanced at the lawyer. You're still thinking about that? We're cutting costs. Do you really think we're handing out bonuses? And according to our records, your last official day of employment was yesterday. So you haven't actually been here for 10 years. Furthermore, she continued, we hope you'll sign a voluntary resignation form. It looks better for everyone. You don't want future employers to see you were fired, do you? They had it all figured out. A perfectly crafted plan to give me absolutely nothing. I crossed my arms and looked them straight in the eye. I choose neither. If that's all, I'm going back to work. Kevin slammed his hand on the table, his face turning red. Revoke all his system access. Let's see how he works then. So the gloves were off. Sharon held Kevin back, shifting to a softer tone. Leo, if you won't be reasonable, we'll have to proceed with an involuntary termination. We can offer you a standard severance package of 1 month's salary for each year of service. You were here for 10 years minus 1 day, so we'll pay you for 9 years. That's 9 months of salary. We can process the paperwork right now. That's not right, I said calmly. According to labor laws regarding wrongful termination, I believe I'm entitled to 2 N+1. Chapter 3. Kevin couldn't contain himself. What do you know about labor law? Are you signing or not? I clocked in and worked today, which means I have officially completed 10 years of service, I said, ignoring him and turning to the lawyer. According to the law, for a wrongful termination like this, the company owes me 2 N, which is 20 months of pay, plus an additional month in lieu of notice. That's 21 months total. Is that correct, counsel? Kevin and Sharon both stared at the lawyer. Pinned down, he had no choice but to mumble, "Yes, that's accurate." Hearing the confirmation, Kevin lost it again. "Go ask around. What company pays 2N plus 1 for a layoff?" Seeing that I wouldn't budge, Sharon took a strategic sip of water. "Leo, you're a long-time employee. You know the company situation. If we give you 2N plus 1, everyone else in this layoff cycle will demand the same thing. The company can't afford that. How about this? We'll give you N plus 1, but we're sticking to yesterday as your termination date. That seems fair." Then came the threat. "You need a new job, Leo. The tech industry is smaller than you think. All of us HR heads know each other. If you make this ugly, it won't look good for you. If we blacklist you, how will you find another job?" She stared at me, a smug, triumphant look on her face. Her name was Sharon Reed. The new CEO had brought her in. Rumor was, at her last company, she single-handedly laid off 1,500 people and paid out almost nothing in severance. Too bad for them. They were playing the wrong game. I didn't need their severance. I already had a backup plan. I appreciate the concern, but once my employment here is terminated, I don't plan on continuing in this industry. My family owns a few successful heirlooms back home. I was planning on retiring to manage them, do some gardening, and just check out for good. The color drained from their faces. I was starting to enjoy myself. "I demand the full compensation stipulated by labor law. If we can't reach an agreement here, I'm more than happy to go to mediation, then arbitration, and then a lawsuit, if necessary. Time is not a factor for me. I have plenty of time and money to drag this out in court. And I can promise you, when I win, I will post the final judgment everywhere online." I leaned back and crossed my legs, watching the three of them. Sharon and Kevin looked like they had just swallowed poison. Sharon, clearly not used to losing, tried one last time. "I've seen guys like you before. They all come back begging me for a good reference. You're still young. I strongly suggest you reconsider our offer. It's better for everyone." "I've made myself perfectly clear," I said. "Deux en plus cinq. Otherwise, we have nothing to talk about." My defiance was a direct challenge to her authority. She slammed her hands on the table and stood up, pointing a finger at me. "Mr. Carter, your employment with this company has been terminated. Please leave the premises now." I cleaned out my ears with my pinky. "Happy to leave, but we need to do the paperwork. You haven't given me my official termination notice or my certificate of employment. Until you do, I guess I'll just have to keep working." Kevin's face was a thundercloud. He looked like he was about to explode. "You have no work to do. HR will give you the papers. Just pack your things and go." I gave them a sarcastic smile and a little wave as I left the room. The moment the door clicked shut, I heard the sound of a cup shattering against the wall. Pathetic. When I got back to my floor, my key card wouldn't open the door. Of course. How was I supposed to get my stuff? I quickly sent a message to Lee, a friend who ran the IT department. "Hey Lee, my key card stopped working." He replied almost instantly. "Leo, Sharon from HR, just messaged me. Said you were terminated and to delete all your permissions." "What's going on? You haven't left yet." "We're still negotiating the severance." I texted back, adding a weary face emoji. "Just trying to pack up my desk." "Man, I'm sorry. It was a direct order from HR, nothing I could do. I'll reactivate your access for a bit. Go get your stuff." I sent him a thank you emoji. We were all just cogs in the machine. I didn't blame him. Just as I finished boxing up my personal items, Sharon came strutting over, for security guards trailing behind her. She slapped my termination notice and certificate of employment on my desk. "Here, don't let the door hit you on the way out." I picked up the certificate. The reason for termination was listed as poor performance and inability to fulfill job responsibilities. Chapter 4. I didn't bother arguing. I tucked the papers into my box and stood up to leave. "Leo, since you are no longer an employee, security will escort you out," Sharon said, puffing out her chest like a victorious rooster. "No problem. Thanks for the escort, fellas," I said, then turned to Sharon. "Just one last thing. Are you sure you don't need me to do a handover? I think it would be a good idea." Her face hardened. "That won't be necessary. Kevin said any new hire can do your job. Now leave." Fine by me. If something breaks, don't come crying to me. In that case, could you please sign the handover waiver? Just to make things official and avoid any confusion down the line." Without even looking at it, she scribbled her name across the signature line, radiating absolute confidence. "For God's sake, you're just a worker bee," she muttered as I walked away. "You really think the company can't survive without you?" Ignoring her, I slung my backpack over my shoulder and walked out of the company I had dedicated a decade of my life to. The first thing I did was call my old high school buddy, Chris Bauer. I knew enough about labor law from browsing online forums to stand my ground, but when it came to a real legal fight, I was out of my depth. You leave that to the professionals. I'm an introvert by nature and don't have a huge network, but Chris and I had stayed close. He'd gone to law school and had been working at a firm ever since. After I explained the situation, he helped me organize all my evidence, including the audio recording. When we were done, Chris grinned. With this recording, I could win this case with a golden retriever as co-counsel. I signed a retainer on the spot, giving him full authority to handle everything. A huge weight lifted off my shoulders. I spent the next week decompressing at home. The feeling of getting a full night's sleep was incredible. I felt human again. Just after lunch one day, I got a message from Lee. "Man, you won't believe this. They've interviewed 20 to 30 people for your old job this week. The job posting says competitive salary, but when people come in, Sharon offers them $3,000 a month and a 6-day work week." A few candidates just stood up, told them they were insane, and walked out. It sounded absurd, but coming from Sharon and Kevin, it was completely believable. The whole company had gone off the rails since the new CEO took over. The founder had always prioritized technical skill and innovation. Now, as long as you could make a pretty PowerPoint, you could get a management position. The brilliant engineers who built the company were now treated like low-level grunts, not even allowed to speak in meetings. In the week since I'd been gone, they had laid off 30% of the engineering staff. The remaining employees were working around the clock just to keep up. On top of that, citing budget constraints, the company canceled the catered lunches and the free cold brew on tap. The break room now had nothing but a hot water dispenser. The official memo said it was to encourage a healthier lifestyle. Even worse, they cut the reimbursement for Uber rides home after 11 p.m. They also stopped paying overtime, claiming that needing to work late was a sign of personal inefficiency, not a company issue. I typed back to Lee, "Let them run the place into the ground. See how long it lasts. Let them have their chaos." I was going to enjoy my life. After a wonderfully peaceful weekend, I woke up Monday morning to a friend request on my messaging app. "Hi, Leo. My name is Kyle Magnum. I'm a new hire." New hire for what? What does that have to do with me? How strange. Sharon herself had insisted no handover was necessary. I closed the app without responding. The next few days were spent either coordinating with my lawyer or just wandering around Austin. The hipsters call it a city walk, but really I was just walking. After I ignored Kyle's 15 friend request, my phone rang. It was Kevin. "Leo, why won't you accept Kyle's friend request?" "Oh, hey Kevin," I said casually. "I've been terminated, remember? Why are you calling me?" "I'm asking why you won't accept his request. You left without handing over any of your work. If you didn't leave the admin passwords, nothing. How are we supposed to do anything? Have you no professional courtesy?" I scoffed. Sharon signed a waiver confirming the handover was complete. "If you have a problem, take it up with her." "If that's all, I'm hanging up now, Kevin." A few seconds after I hung up, my phone rang again. This time it was Sharon. "Leo, where are the admin passwords? Hand them over now." Chapter 5. Did this woman forget I didn't work for her anymore? Did she still think she was my boss? "You're the one who signed the waiver. Can't you read? If your eyes are failing you, maybe you should see a doctor." I was done being polite. "You're withholding company property. If anything goes wrong, we'll sue you." Withholding. I didn't take anything. The day I was fired, you had IT lock all my accounts before I even left the conference room. You confiscated my work laptop. The only things I took were my personal belongings. I don't know anything else. Kevin was an idiot, but Sharon wasn't stupid. She knew she'd messed up by not ensuring a proper handover. My work laptop had been sitting in an IT storage closet ever since they took it. But here's the thing, because I often had to work on the go, I was paranoid about my laptop being stolen. So I kept a file with all the critical passwords inside an encrypted container. The password was a 12-character string of random letters, numbers, and symbols. Even if they found the file, cracking it would be a nightmare. "Leo, this is a criminal offense. Hand it over now." Sharon's voice was getting shrill. I could tell she was panicking. "Criminal? Then you should call the police." Before she could say another word, I hung up. The nerve of these people trying to threaten me. I went back to my city walk. Life was good. I was enjoying the sunshine at a coffee shop when Lee called me. Hey, Leo. Lee, you shouldn't be calling me. They might accuse you of treason. I joked. He laughed. I had to tell you this. The new version of the app is supposed to launch soon, but they can't get into the back end to deploy it. They can't find the password. They've got the entire IT department trying to crack your encryption file. You've really got Kevin and Sharon spinning. We chatted for a few more minutes. After we hung up, I blocked Kevin's number. My first arbitration hearing was coming up. The mediation session was a joke. On the other side of the table sat Sharon and Kevin. Sharon said the company was willing to offer me N+1 in severance, but only on the condition that I cooperate with the back-end handover. They were clearly desperate. The product launch had been delayed for days, and the board of directors was putting immense pressure on the new CEO, who in turn was tearing into Sharon and Kevin daily. Kevin had already received a formal warning. If the launch failed because of this, he was fired. Chris, my lawyer, shut them down immediately. We reject the other party's unreasonable conditions. According to labor law, my client is entitled to 2 N+1 in compensation, which amounts to 21 months of salary. Based on my client's monthly salary of $25,000, the total comes to $525,000. Additionally, the company failed to pay my client for 3 months of overtime, which we've calculated at $22,500. The total compensation owed is $547,500. The moment he heard the number, Kevin jumped to his feet. He needed overtime because he was inefficient. Why should the company have to pay for his incompetence? Chapter 6. You are a special kind of stupid, aren't you? I couldn't hold back anymore. This guy was begging to be insulted. Do you know the first thing about technology? Can you read a single line of our source code? Do you have any idea what the deployment process for a new version even entails? You sit there in your manager's chair, a complete fraud, doing nothing all day but kissing the CEO's ass. Is it your only skill? Go look at what ops engineers at other companies are making. See how they calculate overtime. You're a moron, and you're too arrogant to even try to learn. I have no idea why anyone would put you in charge of technical department. You think you're so smart, right? Kevin was stunned. He'd only ever known the quiet, heads-down version of me at the office. He never imagined I could tear into him like this. Even a mediator was trying to hide a smile, covering his mouth with his hand. Who do you think you're talking to? Leo, have you forgotten your place? His face was turning beet red, his whole body tense with rage. I decided to push him over the edge. I looked him up and down and smirked. I know my place. The real question is, do you know yours? Tell me, what are the steps to deploy the new version? Go on, I'm waiting. If you're going to be an idiot, at least own it. Didn't your master teach you any new tricks? Arg! He vaulted over the table and lunged at me, aiming to hit me. Just as his hand was about to connect with my face, the mediator grabbed him from behind. Damn it! I was so close to adding assault to my lawsuit. I even leaned in, but it was too late. With the situation spiraling out of control, the mediator declared the session over. He told us to consider our options and decide whether to schedule another session or proceed directly to a lawsuit. That afternoon, Chris and I went to the courthouse and filed the suit. The very next morning, Sharon and Kevin contacted me, asking for a settlement. I had been talking to Lee every day, so I knew the pressure on Kevin was immense. The product launch was still stalled. The board was hammering the CEO, who was taking all out on him. In the tech world, time is money. Every day of delay meant more users flocking to our competitors. The head of the development department was also at his wit's end, chewing Kevin out every time he saw him. The new hire, Kyle, turned out to be Kevin's nephew. He had a high school diploma and had been unemployed for months. He never would have gotten a foot in the door at a company like ours, especially since he had zero computer science background. The constant pressure at work was too much for Kyle, and he'd already threatened to quit. Kevin was now spending his days getting berated at the office and his evenings trying to console his nephew. He couldn't take it anymore. He begged the legal team and Sharon to set up another meeting with me. I refused. Our current dispute was about my severance. The admin password was a separate issue. Sharon had signed the handover waiver. Legally, that had nothing to do with me. That afternoon, I got a call from an unknown number. It was Kevin. I had blocked his other number, of course. Leo, what is it going to take for you to hand over the admin password? Chapter 7. $100,000, I said. This is a technical consultation service. The price is the price. No discounts. Carter, are you insane? That's extortion, Kevin screamed into the phone. As I said, this has nothing to do with my severance dispute. Sharon signed off on my handover. I left that company with a clean slate. Now you're asking me to do work for you. You expect me to do it for free? What's wrong with you? I could practically feel his rage through the phone. He was so furious, he just hung up. I took a sip of water. A moment later, Sharon called. She was slightly more sophisticated than Kevin, but that wasn't saying much. Leo, if you're willing to cooperate with the handover, we can renegotiate your severance. What good does it to you to burn bridges with the company? First, you pay the compensation my lawyer proposed during mediation. Then, I'll consider your request. There was a long silence on her end. Just when I thought she was going to refuse, she suddenly said, "Fine. When can you sign the papers?" I was stunned, just like that. Well, money is money. I wasn't going to argue, but I wasn't going to let them off easy. I talked to Chris, and we scheduled the signing for the following Saturday. They wanted to do it immediately, but I told them I was out of town on vacation. They had no choice but to agree, though they insisted on meeting Saturday morning. That Saturday, they were shockingly agreeable. It was almost like they'd been replaced by body snatchers. After both sides signed the agreement, the company's finance department wired the $547,500 directly into my account while I watched. The moment the transfer went through, Kevin grabbed my arm. "Okay, you got your money. Now, were you handing over the password?" I agreed, but on my terms. I would only assist them remotely. And that $100,000 fee? I gave them a friends and family discount. All right, since you two have been so generous, I'll give you a deal. $50,000, and I'll walk your guy through the process remotely right now. Any future support calls will be $5,000 per incident, payable up front. How's that for a bargain? Kevin looked like his eyes were going to pop out of his head, but he was cornered and had no choice but to agree. Sharon sneered. "You're young, Leo. An attitude like this will come back to haunt you. What company would ever hire you after this?" "You know, I almost forgot," I said, turning to her. "That termination certificate you gave me says I was fired for poor performance. That's not going to work for me. It could hurt my future prospects. You need to issue me a new one. Otherwise, my consultation fee is about to go up." And just like that, I was staring at two wide-eyed, speechless idiots. Furious, but helpless, Sharon had to draw up a new, clean certificate of employment. A few minutes later, I got the notification from my bank. $50,000 deposited. I unblocked Kevin's number and accepted Kyle's friend request. Since they paid, I had to provide the service. I practically held Kyle's hand, guiding him step by step to the encrypted file and then walking him through the process to update the app to the new version. It was painfully obvious that Kyle knew nothing. He was a complete novice who had probably never seen a line of code in his life. He was like a curious child, asking why at every single step. I didn't have the patience to explain the fundamentals of systems engineering, so I just told him to write down the steps and ask Google if he had questions later. Chapter 8. Kevin had some serious nerve, hiring a total amateur to manage our infrastructure. If anything went wrong in the future, he was in for a world of pain. After the new version finally went live, things were quiet for a while. But some people are just determined to self-destruct. I was enjoying a nice morning sleeping in when I got a message from Kyle asking an incredibly basic question, the kind of thing you could find in seconds with a simple web search. I ignored it, locked my phone, and went back to sleep. A few minutes later, he called me. "Why didn't you answer my message?" he demanded. "A question that's simple. You can just look it up online," I said, trying to keep the irritation out of my voice. "My consulting services come with a fee. Didn't your uncle tell you? Don't give me that crap, you greedy bastard. You want money for everything? Are you stupid or something?" "Okay," I said calmly. "From now on, your consulting fee is $10,000 per incident." He was a spoiled brat. Like uncle, like nephew. I later heard from Lee what happened. Kyle found some random piece of code on the internet, and without testing it in a staging environment, he executed it directly on the live servers. The company's entire platform went down. It took them a full week to restore service. During the outage, Kevin called me, begging for help. I told him that after his nephew's insults, my mood was pretty sour. I couldn't guarantee I could fix it, but I'd be willing to try. My on-site fee was $50,000, non-refundable. If I managed to fix the system, there would be an additional $100,000 success fee. Kevin screamed that I was a price-gouging vulture and hung up. He ended up hiring someone else. The week of downtime cost the company a fortune. The entire engineering department stormed the CEO's office and demanded that Kyle be fired, threatening a mass resignation if he wasn't. The CEO, buckling under the pressure, finally let him go. After that disaster, Kevin realized he couldn't rely on amateurs. He tried to poach an experienced ops engineer from a competitor, but our company's reputation was already in the toilet. The candidate said he'd only consider the offer if they gave him a salary of $60. Zero is a monthly salary in the original text, so $60,000 per month is a plausible translation. 000 a month, an ironclad contract, and a written guarantee that he wouldn't be laid off for at least 10 years. After some negotiation, they settled on $50,000 a month and the 10-year guarantee. The first thing Kevin did after hiring the new guy was call me to gloat. "We don't need you anymore. See? The company is doing just fine without you. Let's see how long you can last with no income." "You absolute moron," I replied. "You paid me a massive settlement, then hired a new guy for an even bigger salary. What exactly are you bragging about? Do you have a personal grudge against the company's bank account, or are you just naturally this stupid?" I hung up before he could respond, not wanting to pollute my ears with any more of his nonsense. I kept the promise I'd made to myself on the day I was fired. The moment I got my settlement, I posted the arbitration documents and proof of payment online. My former colleagues who had also been laid off saw it and realized how badly they'd been swindled. One of them had a family member with a serious illness, and losing his job and getting a tiny severance meant he couldn't afford the expensive medical treatments. His family member passed away. Chapter 9, fueled by anger and a sense of injustice. They filed a class action lawsuit against the company and Sharon Reed for wrongful termination and for using the threat of an industry blacklist to coerce them into signing unfair severance agreements. There were 168 plaintiffs in total. The massive lawsuit immediately caught the attention of the media and the public. The concept of an HR blacklist became a national story. The police launched an investigation and discovered that Sharon, ever since she started her career in HR, had maintained a private group chat with other HR professionals in the Austin tech scene. The group was called the Austin HR In and Out List. Within the group were two shared folders, the In List and the Out List. The In List contained the names of people who were easy to lay off, docile employees who would accept a lowball offer without a fight. The Out List was for anyone who had ever challenged an HR decision, filed a complaint, or pursued legal action. They were branded as troublemakers. Over the years, with contributions from dozens of HR managers, the list had grown to include the names and personal information, including social security numbers, of thousands of people. The revelation of this secret blacklist caused a firestorm online. The story went viral, and many people found their own names on the lists. The public outcry against Sharon and the company was deafening. Bowing to the pressure, the company fired her and issued a public statement claiming she was a rogue employee acting on her own to boost her performance metrics, and that the company had no knowledge of her actions. The scandal was so big that the district attorney got involved. The moment a disgraced Sharon walked out of the company's headquarters, she was met by police officers who put her in handcuffs. Due to the intense public pressure, her case was fast-tracked. In addition to paying massive fines for privacy violations, she was sentenced to 5 years in prison. She had finally made it onto a blacklist of her own. As for me, I went back to my hometown for a visit. Thanks to a few travel influencers, the area had become a popular tourist destination. My family's Airbnb business was booming, and we had expanded to 8 properties. Between that and the settlement money, I wasn't in any hurry to find another job. After years of grinding away, I finally had time to think. I decided to travel, to see the world. It was time for my own adventure. The next day, I was lying on a beach in the Maldives, soaking up the sun. My phone rang. It was Kevin. So much for my peaceful getaway. With a sigh of frustration, I answered. "Leo, the company's entire back end has crashed. The tech department has been working on it for a week, and they can't fix it. Lee said you solved a similar problem once. You have to get back here now." Hearing his panicked voice brought a smile to my face. "I'm on the other side of the world, Kevin. Didn't you hire some superstar engineer? Let him handle it." "Now." "No, Leo, my friend, my brother. Please don't do this to me. The company is going to go under if we can't fix this. How much money do you want? Just name your price. I'm on vacation. Besides, a rich company like yours can just post a freelance gig on Upwork or something. Stop bothering me. My refusal made him desperate. I'm begging you. You worked here for 10 years. Can you really stand by and watch the company collapse over a little thing like this? Chapter 10. A little thing? If it's so little, why don't you ask your nephew Kyle to fix it? He's the genius, right? And I have no sentimental feelings for that company. It was the company that threw me out. You still owe me for my stock options, by the way. Leo, for God's sake, man, have some perspective. Are you going to help or not? There it was. He couldn't keep the mask on for long. Not my problem. If you can't fix it, let the whole thing burn. I hung up and went back to admiring the view. Seeing that I wouldn't budge, Kevin had other people call me, trying to reason with me. Even the brilliant new CEO himself called. He claimed that firing me was Kevin's decision alone and that he had never been informed. If he had known, he said he never would have approved the termination of a loyal, 10-year veteran employee like me. Leo, how about this? I'll book you a first-class ticket home right now. Round trip. Just come back, help us out, and then you can fly right back and continue your vacation. He sounded sincere, but I wasn't born yesterday. A layoff of a senior employee wouldn't happen without his approval. And putting a technically incompetent crony like Kevin in charge of a critical department like ops, it was obvious Kevin was his guy. Sorry, Mr. CEO, is it? I'm not feeling well. The jet lag would be too much for me. This is your company's problem. You should solve it yourselves. When he realized I wouldn't be manipulated, he dropped the act. The friendly tone vanished, replaced by pure rage. Who the hell do you think you are? You get your ass back here right now, or I'll have my legal team sue you into oblivion. You'll be responsible for all of our losses. Responsible for his losses? I hadn't worked there in months. How could they possibly pin this on me? You arrogant prick. I don't even work for you anymore, and you have the nerve to talk to me like that? When your mother gave birth, did she throw out the baby and raise the placenta? Show some respect, you fossil. Before he could even respond, I slammed the hang-up button. Technical work requires not just skill, but meticulous attention to detail. With a clueless manager like Kevin in charge, it was a miracle the company hadn't collapsed sooner. I once thought I would work there until I retired. The pay was good, and I had a plan to call it quits at 45 and go home to manage the Arabs. After all, I had been there from the beginning. I had put in the blood, sweat, and tears to help it grow from nothing into a star of the tech world. There was an emotional connection. But the genius CEO they hired had destroyed all of it. After what they put me through, I felt nothing but contempt for that place. After my layoff, the HR department's axe fell on anyone with more than 3 years of service. The logic was that senior employees had higher salaries, which increased operating costs. The new CEO also believed that these veteran employees had deep-rooted relationships within the company, making it harder for him to maintain complete control. The back-end system crash lasted for 10 days. They eventually had to hire a top-tier engineer from a major tech giant, paying him a freelance fee of $300,000 to come in and fix it. After the incident, the original founder, who was still on the board, ordered a full investigation. Kevin, true to form, blamed the new engineer he had hired and fired him on the spot. He then hired 3 unpaid interns from a local community college, still failing to grasp that you can't maintain a massive, complex system with inexperienced newcomers. In the month that followed, the back-end crashed 4 more times, each outage lasting 2 or 3 days. The company lost a massive number of users, and several major investors demanded to pull their funding. The exodus of users and the sudden cash crunch sent the company into a death spiral. The founder had no choice but to come out of retirement and try to save it. But it was too late. The company was a shattered wreck, ready to be blown over by the slightest breeze. Within 2 months, nearly all of our remaining users had migrated to our competitors. With no revenue, the company couldn't pay back its loans or make payroll. It was forced to file for bankruptcy and begin liquidation. The founder, furious, fired the new CEO and Kevin. Then he sued both of them, along with Sharon, who was already in prison. The lawsuit alleged that the 3 of them had colluded to intentionally sabotage the company, resulting in a catastrophic loss of assets and users, and that their actions constituted corporate espionage. As a once prominent tech company already famous for the blacklist scandal, the news of its collapse and the subsequent lawsuit made national headlines. The investigation revealed that the CEO had engaged in corrupt hiring practices and accepted bribes from third-party vendors. Kevin was found to have purchased used, second-hand equipment from other companies for server upgrades, billing his own company for brand-new, top-of-the-line hardware at an inflated price. As for Sharon, her name was dragged through the mud online all over again. People started sending funeral wreaths to her home. Her husband, unable to take the public humiliation, divorced her and disappeared with their kids. The former CEO was sentenced to 5 years in prison in order to pay back $2 million in illegal gains and fines. He had to sell his mansion to cover the costs. Kevin got 4 years and a $1 million fine. And it turned out he had another hobby, gambling. He had taken such huge risks at work because he was drowning in debt to loan sharks. Now, faced with restitution and fines, he had no way to pay. When the court went to his wife, they discovered she had already left him and taken the kids, who, it turned out, weren't even his. She had been having an affair with a childhood friend, and they had been quietly draining their assets in preparation for a divorce. When Kevin was arrested, she just took the money and ran. Our parents and grandparents worked hard to build this country, not so that unscrupulous corporations could exploit us. Sharon was right about one thing. We're all just screws in a machine. The machine can keep running if one screw is replaced, or even if one is missing. But she forgot that it's all of us, these millions of tiny screws, that make the machine work in the first place. Maybe we didn't achieve anything spectacular, but we were all just trying to make a living. We're all just working people. Why make it so hard for each other?